You know, I had such faith in his intelligence, his overall intelligence as a songwriter and as a producer, that I didn't even think twice about it. Because when the first time he talked to me and we met, which was in Australia, he had written a fan mail and to the band, and then we noticed that a few months later we were going to be in the same place at the same time, and so we met up for a drink. And you know, I know his musical style is way different. He's very 70s, I'm very 80s. And but I could just tell the guy got it. I got that he understood what it was that made our music, you know, good, if it was good. He picked up on all the right things and all the right songs. And that sort of stuff sort of transcends genre, and it transcends taste. If somebody understands you and understands what makes you work and is a good producer, you know, it doesn't matter if they're, you know, going home and listening to classical music or going and, you know, singing in a band like Slayer. Like, if they get you and they know how to apply, that's all that matters. It's sort of, I mean, it's like love. It's like one of those things where, like, you know, the most unexpected person might be able to connect with that something in you, and you know, you just have to go with it. And that's how I felt about Ben when I met him. I was just like, the guy gets it. Yeah, he, well, it was my suggestion to bring in Zoe Keating, the cellist, because I'd always wanted to collaborate with her, and she's genius. And so I mentioned this to Ben, and he said, well, bring her in and I'll help arrange some parts. But there were all these ballads on the record, like Ampersand and Another Year and Have to Drive. And those so obviously, to both of us, so obviously called for strings and orchestration. Like, I'd always heard strings in my head for Have to Drive and stuff. And Ben knew this arranger, this incredible old school arranger, Paul Buckmaster. And Paul Buckmaster did all the famous Elton John songs and stuff. You know, once again, it's like that very 70s thing. But he's been working since then, and Ben gave me his number and said, this is the guy. You know, he's crazed and really hard to work with, but he's genius. And I didn't quite understand that until the thing played out and I understood what Ben meant. But that was it. Ben sort of like handed me off to him, and then I went to LA and sat down with Paul, and we just started singing through the songs and working on the arrangements, and he would sequence them on synthesizer, play them for me, and then at the very end we went into the studio, into Capitol Records, like that beautiful Capitol Records building, and we recorded the strings in about 2 days with all live string players. And that was one of those moments in my life where I was just like, I can't believe this is fucking happening. I don't even know all these people, and they're here playing my songs. So that was the interesting next step, was also that sort of anonymous, like, session players on my record. You know, people who didn't even know about the Dresden Dolls, care about the Dresden Dolls, didn't even really know my name barely. They just knew that their session today was 11 o'clock, Amanda Palmer, okay, like sheet music. That was a weird experience. Well, it's both. I got the idea. I remember maybe 3 or 4 years ago thinking like, oh, that's if and when I put out a solo record, that's the perfect title, because it's just so funny. And so, you know, it was always the working title, and then it sort of started to take on more meaning as I started to think about like, okay, well, you know what, especially for the younger fans who don't even know David Lynch, and I'm a huge David Lynch fan. Giant. But for those who don't get the reference, what's it going to mean? Right. And so I started thinking about that, and that started influencing the way I was looking at the record, but also the way I was looking at promoting the record. Because it's not a concept record. I mean, it's not a record about death. It's not, you know, the title and the record were not conceived of as a whole. But there's this weird coincidence where ever since I was about 20 years old, I've been taking these dead photographs of myself. And I have a couple hundred of these weird collections, and it's just something always I've done, especially when I get really depressed on tour. Like, I'll go off and I'll take photos of myself with the auto timer. You know, when you're traveling alone, it's a cool way of documenting yourself instead of just doing that like, hi, it's me in front of the Louvre. You know, it's me dead in front of the Louvre. It's much more artistic. And so I decided to put together a book because I had all these photographs. But I wanted to make it more than just a random photo book. I wanted to actually give it some shape and give it a story. And so I reached out to Neil Gaiman, the author, who loved this idea. And so now he's basically writing a book based on the photographs. So, and it's so funny too, because it's like these two main collaborators I'm working with right now are Neil Gaiman, who's like this super goth, twisted fantasy, dark, you know, writer, and then Ben Folds, who's like Mr. 70s pop. And it's so awesome because they're sort of working on the same project and I'm in the middle. It's totally schizophrenic, but you know what? It makes a lot of sense because so am I. Okay. I love this part. Well, you know, he's a drummer first. I don't think people who aren't fans get how fucking talented this guy is. Amazing drummer, great singer, great songwriter, great pianist, great composer, great bass player. Like, he's just one of those guys, he can pick up an instrument and just start playing it and you want to strangle him. Well, I'm doing this little tour in August. It's like a preliminary tour. I'm just doing 3 dates in Europe: Cologne, Hamburg, and London. And then in October, I'll be touring all of Germany, all of Europe, all of France, and on and on and on and on. And so in August, it's just me and piano. And then in October, when I come back, I'll have a crew of 11 people. But it's not a traditional backup band. It's strings with Zoe Keating as well. She's coming. And a bunch of actors. We're writing a show. I won't go so far as to say it's like a musical, but it's a really theatrical night, and it's beautiful. I'm bringing in these actors, and they're going to interpret a lot of the songs on the stage and off the stage and in the audience. And we're also using a lot of I'm very close with the fans, so we're using a lot of volunteers in the audience to help us flesh out the evening. So, I mean, as usual, it's going to be this like crazy art party. Yeah, it's going to be incredible. That's a really great question, and we're doing it right now. Yeah, we're working on it right now, and they should be released by the fall. For self-titled, Yes, Virginia, and then No, Virginia is coming out just in Europe, but that's good because you're in Europe, so. Meine Augenbrauen, it's eyeliner. It's just makeup. And I draw it on myself. I do it sometimes several times a day if I need to wash my face or go jogging. But yeah, it takes me 5 seconds to do. It used to take me longer, but I've been doing it for so many years now. It's just like, I'm like Zorro. But yeah, I don't think I could ever tattoo my face. I would freak out. The permanence really scares me.